Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day 473. 473. Tuesday, June the 26th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, it is well past the deadline that Nunes and the boys have laid out for Rodentstein and Ray to come off them documents. It does not appear that that has happened. So I just looked to see if I could find or if any action has been taken, and I don't see anything. But both Nunes and Mark Meadows were on Fox this morning, and I watched both of those segments. And Mark Meadows essentially said, yeah, I mean, as far as we're concerned, sometime this week there is going to be floor action unless these documents that we subpoenaed, and we got 1,400, we're looking for over 1 million. So he said they didn't even get close. They're not even giving us the things we want. It's more of the same. And as far as I'm concerned, as best I can tell, it's what he's telling Fox News, that we're going to be having a floor vote this week for, I assume that would be contempt. And then following that, they would do impeachment of Rodentstein and or Ray. So that's what Mark Meadows said. Now, Nunes, they didn't actually ask him that question. They talked about the deadline, but didn't really say, didn't really ask him what they were going to do next, because this was this morning, before the deadline had ended. So anyway, but he did say a couple things that caught my ear. And for the first time, he did talk in terms of the intelligence agencies. He's been talking about these spies. Okay, we want to know from the FBI about these spies. We want to know who they were, when they were, how many, whatever. And he's always talking to him in relation to the FBI. But in this particular interview, he was saying, yeah, well, these things were going on before the FBI investigation. And he's talking about, obviously what we've heard about Halper and now this new guy that comes along, Mr. Greenberg. We don't know about Misfit and all these other people. So anyway, Devin Nunes is talking about these guys, and he says, okay, they're asking, what he wants. And he said that obviously there's a lot of different documents they have subpoenaed and requested, but he said really what they focus on primarily is two things that they're looking at right now. One, he said, is the issues with the FISA warrants. You betcha. So some of that stuff, of course, we know he's wanting to know who the FISA judges were. He's wanting to know about the application on the FISAs. He wants the transcripts of, I guess, what the FBI lawyers or DOJ lawyers said to the FISA court. So he wants to nail all that down to prove his point, which we all know, which is that they misled the FISA court. It's obvious that they misled the FISA court. And we've been through the details of that, so I won't go through it here again, but we all know about the details of how they went about misleading the FISA court, both by lies and by lies of omission. Both are lies. Because the FISA court works differently. There's no one representing the other side in the FISA court. It's up to the DOJ and the FBI lawyers, whoever they are, to make sure that the FISA court judges get any, I guess you would say, exculpatory evidence, or if there's any reason to question, they're supposed to tell that to the FISA judge as well. But clearly they did everything they could not to do that. So this has a lot to do, and there may be other things about that Devin Nunes is specifically focusing on. But he said the other thing that they were really looking at and what they want information on is all this stuff about informants or spies or whatever you want to call them. He said that they want to know, they already know that we're spies, okay? They haven't actually, the FBI and DOJ have not actually admitted to that, but based on the most recent document, they don't deny it. So it's pretty obvious that it is true. So now Nunes wants to know exactly how many spies, who were the spies. He don't even have to really know their names, but, how many spies were there? He wants to know how much they were being paid. And so these are some of the questions he wants answered, and these are the documents they're withholding, and they're trying to go around now and pass it off to the DNI. I don't think that's going to work, but Devin Nunes did say that he was going to be speaking with the DNI later in the day. That would have been yesterday. So it was a pretty good interview. They weren't long interviews with either Meadows or Nunes, but they were long enough that they got to get this off their chest and talk about what it is that they want. But at this time, as I'm doing this video, Monday evening, they have not produced the documents, and there, as far as we know, there's been no floor action taken. Maybe that'll happen tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday. I don't know. But when you talk about these informants, we have to stop and think about this for just a minute. Depending on how you define informant, because, informant's not really the right word for what these people were doing. An informant is someone who's typically a part of an organization who is within the organization already, and they produce information from within the organization. When you put someone outside an organization into an organization, that's typically referred to as a spy. Now, if they're actually involved in setting up frame-ups like these individuals appear to have been doing, those are agent provocateurs. And when you look at it from that angle, then you can say, yes, well, okay, we know about the fat man, Stefan Halper. We know about the fat man. We now know about Mr. Greenberg. But what about Mr. Misfit? Could he have been... And remember, this was not just an American intelligence agency operation. This was... there was close coordination with British intelligence, both current and former, because a lot of these activities were taking place in England. They were also taking place in Ukraine. They were taking place in Italy. So they were taking place at various places across the pond, and it involved foreign intelligence agencies as well. So when you look at it that way, Mr. Misfit, he could have been an intelligence asset of either the U.S. or the British government. Mr. Milian could easily have been. Christopher Steele. The FBI, we're still not 100% sure that the FBI did not pay Steele. We still haven't gotten that information yet. We know they were thinking about it or offering to pay him. We don't know if they actually ever did get around to paying him. It's been suggested that they did pay his travel expenses when he went to Rome to brief the FBI. But is it possible that Mr. Steele could also be listed as a possible informant or spy or agent provocateur? I think he certainly could be. How about Mr. Downer? When you get into this list, however you want to define spy, how do you want to define agent provocateur, informant, whatever, however you want to define that, if these individuals were working for, being directed by officials from the FBI or one of the intelligence agencies, whichever side of the pond it was on, and they were all working in a coordinated effort, then they could all be considered as agents of the government, whether it be the FBI, the CIA, or whoever. And you have quite a list of people who could have been involved in these things. It wasn't just Mr. Halper. It wasn't even just Mr. Greenberg. And we know they tried to go get Mr. Deripaska, that sent two FBI agents to him to try to get him to jump on board, to participate in the frame-up. He laughed at them. So there's a lot to know here, and again, Devin Nunes, I think, knows that this is rooted in the intelligence, and it began and it was rooted in the intelligence agencies, and it's the first time today that I've seen him interviewed that he moved away from trying to tie this type of activity to the FBI, and he's now talking about it in terms of intelligence agencies, which means I think he probably already knows this, but Nunes doesn't want to get ahead of himself. He wants to make sure that he doesn't get ahead of his own investigation, and that's probably why he's been hesitant to go there. But now he is talking in terms of these individuals not just working with the FBI, but possibly coming from intelligence operations, and that's exactly it. And this was not an investigation; it was operation. There's a difference between an investigation and an operation. This was not an investigation. This was an operation. Okay. We'll keep watching and see what happens. Well, our good friend, attorney number 2, Kevin Kleinsmith, the guy who said Viva la Revolution, and talked about the fact that he was sick on the day that Trump won, and he was crying and all that kind of stuff. Well, we find out today that he was one of the agents that interviewed Papadopoulos. Uh-oh. That's a problem. He also worked on the Clinton email investigation that wasn't an investigation. And of course, he was on Mueller's team before he got kicked off over his texts. Well, that's an interesting situation now, isn't it? Because just yesterday, Uncle Bob had asked to try to set a sentencing date for Papadopoulos sometime in September or October. Well, I don't know. I mean, if you're Papadopoulos, there's a couple things to consider here. I mean, just like Roger Stone and like Michael Caputo and like others, no more than Papadopoulos, no one any more than him. I mean, was likely framed, set up. They attempted to frame him, set him up. I mean, he's got a serious case. When this all flushes itself out, Papadopoulos, Caputo, and Roger Stone are going to have cases against the government, especially Papadopoulos. They've turned his life upside down. So what, they frame him? And they attempt to frame him or set him up? And then after doing so, they charge him with a bunch of process crimes? Based on the things that happened as they were in the process of setting him up? Using foreign agents to set him up through the intelligence agencies, through the FBI, tag teaming him? I mean, he's got a hell of a case, and now that his attorney, I'm sure, is learning about this, that Mr. Kleinsmith, who was one of the people who interviewed Papadopoulos, also worked on that case, I would think that his attorney is going to be going into court and raising some red flags with the judge. I mean, this taints the whole case. Everything that these guys touched, Strzok Page, Mr. Kleinsmith, Moyer, and the other one whose name I forget now. I forget her name, but we've identified them all five. Any of those five people, and they were all involved in everything, but any of these five, anything they touched at this point, in my mind, has to be a big question mark. Any legal proceedings going on need to be put on halt until this thing is sorted out. But once all this is sorted out, and we prove what we all know is true, which was that it was a frame-up operation, a coup, essentially, a deep state coup, and that these individuals, whether it was in the Trump Tower meeting, Papadopoulos, Stone, Caputo, all these individuals, there was an effort made to set them up, to lure them into a trap, to frame them. They're not allowed to do that. The government's not allowed to frame you, by the way. They have sting operations, and those come very close sometimes, but these are flat-out frame-ups, setups, lures. That's what these were. And, I mean, all of these people are going to have lawsuits, and Papadopoulos should go get his case thrown out. The entire situation that he was in with Mueller and getting charged with these process crimes because he got a couple dates wrong or something, these things are all because he got caught up in this investigation, which was a result of a frame-up set into motion by the CIA, the FBI, and their friends in British intelligence, and others. So, I mean, he's got a hell of a case. His attorney should be going to court and telling the judge to get to put a stay on this case. And the same with Manafort, the same with Michael Cohen, the whole group of them. Every single one of them should be taking this bias into the court and saying this whole case is tarnished. This whole thing's poison. Every one of them should be successful in getting a stay on these on anything. All these court cases should just be grinded to a halt, a pause. They should hit the pause button until this is all figured out, to figure out who did what, because they were all part of frame-ups, setups, traps, and things and such. So Papadopoulos, and all these guys should have I think they have a real strong standing for a civil suit, one that could, probably make them a lot of money. Unfortunately, it's taxpayer money, but, Anyway, let's just hope that Papadopoulos, that his attorney, is paying attention to this, because, again, this is just, shows you that anything that these five agents and attorneys touched, it's poison. And that will be evident by the time we get to the end of this, believe me. Hey, Mad Maxine Waters. Well, she's getting a lot of blowback for that insane statement that she made, which made her dumbass of the week yesterday. She is definitely getting a lot of blowback. Even Madam Botox, Nancy Pelosi, came out today and made a statement suggesting that she doesn't support mobbing people in the Trump administration or Trump supporters or what have you. Even Madam Botox doesn't go that far. She knows it's a loser. She knows politically it's not a good thing to be supporting something like this or promoting something like this, because the average person thinks it's just, if nothing more, rude. And it's not what we do. It's not what we do in this country. We've never done it, and we don't want to start it. We don't want to start this being the new normal. That everywhere we go, if you show your support for a particular political ideology or issue or something, that you are now subject to being harassed by anyone around you who doesn't like it. This is not how things work. It's not what things were intended to be. Maxine Waters is an idiot, and even Democrats, even CNN came out and dismissed Mad Max's comments. And of course, Trump's tweet was fantastic. I mean, he nailed it so perfectly, man. Trump nailed it perfectly. He sent out a tweet saying, Mad Maxine has an extremely low IQ. Now, see, that's just another way of saying she's really stupid. She's really dumb. I mean, that's what he's saying. He's just doing it with, let's just say he's doing it correctly. But either way, it's an extreme cut, and everyone knows it's true. That's the funny thing about it. Trump knows when he tweets that out that, that Mad Maxine has an extremely low IQ. Everyone knows that. I mean, even the Democrats in Congress know that Mad Max is literally dumber than a doorknob. So that should not surprise anyone that Trump couldn't resist that tweet. But a lot of people are wondering, like, asking the question: how did she ever get elected? I mean, how did this woman? How can you be that incredibly stupid? I'll just use the word incredibly stupid and get elected. And I don't know. I mean, I know some people have suggested maybe be because she had previously achieved some fortune and fame, I guess, or recognition as being one of the California raisins. But I don't really know if she was one of the California raisins or not. I mean, she does bear a striking resemblance to one or two of the California raisins. There's a striking resemblance, although it's kind of hard to tell because she wears the James Brown wig. So with the James Brown wig, the suck it to me, the suck it to me James Brown wig, it's hard to tell if she was actually one of the California raisins. But I don't think she was, because the California raisins, I mean, they at least they could sing, they could dance, they had some talent, they had some skill, they had some redeemable quality. But of course, they were selling breakfast cereal, which I actually happen to like, Raisin Bran, and I actually like the California raisins. I thought they kind of rocked a little bit. But anyway, I don't think that Maxine Waters, even though she looks like a California raisin, has a striking resemblance to one of the California raisins. I don't think she was one of them, because I don't think she can sing or dance. Anyway, I don't think there's any truth to that rumor. But no, I mean, I think she just comes from that district. Inglewood, I think it is. She doesn't live in her district or anything, but she just comes from a district where, I mean, I guess, those people think she's great. That's the only thing they keep re-electing her. I mean, they probably think she's funny and probably think she's great. They probably watch Mad Max and think, yeah, that's our congressman. She's great. I mean, it's the only thing I can think of. Okay, moving on. We have the Rotten Reverend. That's right, the Rotten Reverend. She will never go away. The Rotten Reverend is now on her European What Happened tour, because it's not selling over here anymore. So she's over on her What Happened tour, trying to explain the embarrassing, devastating loss of 2016 by dumping on America. She's now complaining again about the Electoral College. I'm not going to go through this again. I already went through it once before. And the Rotten Reverend Clinton understands full well why we have the Electoral College, and she's just counting on the fact that she drops the phrase Electoral College, and that somehow this rigged system that was rigged against her. Yes, they created the Electoral College back in 1787 specifically to rig it against the Rotten Reverend Clinton. We've been using it for 260 some odd years, but all of a sudden, when the Rotten Reverend loses, there's a problem. She didn't have a problem with it when her husband won twice with it. She didn't have a problem when Barack Obama won 2 elections with it. But all of a sudden, she's got a problem with it. She knows all about the Electoral College and why we have it and everything else. But she's hoping that the Europeans don't understand it, and they don't. Now, she also suggested that Trump is the kind of leader that threatens the survival of democratic institutions. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Well, I would say that fixing and rigging elections, which is what you did, Reverend, is far more dangerous to democratic institutions. All Trump did was go out and run a clean, hard campaign and beat your ass, Reverend. No, Reverend, it's you and your friends and your allies, Mr. Soros, and all his buddies, the globalists. They're the ones who threaten the survival of democratic institutions. They're breaking down democratic institutions all around the world. And Trump is the guy that stepped up and put a stop to it. And now he's finding allies in Italy. He's finding allies all over Europe. Ask Mr. Orban. There are Donald Trumps all over Europe, popping up everywhere and becoming very popular. Screw you, Reverend. Well, it looks like Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray, the director of the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her, along with Rodentstein, are going to testify to the House Judiciary Committee on June the 28th. That's Thursday. That's 3 days from now, or 2 days from now. Okay, that's going to be a live broadcast. Wow, I'll be tuning into that, and hopefully I can catch a little bit of that as I'm going in and out of my office throughout the day. Hopefully, although I'll come home and watch segments of it live, but or rebroadcasted. But anyway, that's going to be interesting. Ray and Rodentstein to talk about some issues. That should be pretty entertaining, especially if they're both being held in contempt at the time that they're being questioned or in the process of being impeached. My, never a boring day, huh? So, I was talking the other day, I said, we've beat these people. This is why they're so unhinged. They're unhinged as hell because they realize that they have been beaten. They know that they really can't win, not in the Electoral College anyway. They really can't win national elections based on the fact that they're so far to the left of the country. They're losing the Midwest. They used to have a stronghold in the South. That's never coming back. They were hoping that would happen. It's not going to happen. They're even losing it in the Southwest, even probably in the Northeast. We'll find out in 2018 for sure. But the idea is to continue to beat them. And what's beautiful about all of this is that we don't even have to really go out and do anything to continue defeating the left. All we have to do is continue to elect more good members of Congress who will support Trump's agenda, which is our agenda. And we'll continue to win and have victories. And Trump will continue to succeed in his policies. And as he continues to do so, what he does is every day that Trump is successful, which is every day, it drives the left insane. And what it does is it forces and it brings out the worst in them. Trump brings out the worst of the left. This stuff has always been there, but it's always been under the surface. They've always been able to hide it. With Trump, he gets under their skin so bad that he actually gets them to let it all out, and they're not able to hide it anymore. They expose themselves as to how radically to the left they are and how ridiculously insane their policies are that they support. They're literally hanging by a thread on an issue that's a loser. And the only other issue that they could go to is guns, and that's an issue that would be a loser in the Midwest, the South, and the Southwest. There is no other issues left. This is all they got is immigration. And they're losing on this issue. So the way to defeat the Democrats is just to keep winning, just to keep having success. And they will beat themselves. They will defeat themselves because the better things go for Trump and for all of us as we see his agenda moving forward and we get the things that we know are good for the country, as we keep seeing those good things happen, it continues to drive the left even nuttier, and they'll get nuttier and nuttier. So we saw them melt down in 2016 on election night. They're going to melt down exactly like that again on election night in the midterms, and then again in 2020 and 22 and 24. This is how we defeat these people. Just focus on getting good guys in the Congress who will back the president's agenda, a pro-growth agenda, And we'll win automatically by default because it will drive the left nuts and it will expose exactly how crazy they really are. They are a shrinking party right now, and they're in a world of hurt, and they don't even know it. They don't even know it. So obvious to most other people. But the most recent CBS poll, this is CBS. This is not a Fox poll. This is not, a Breitbart poll. This is CBS, an organization that hates Trump. CBS, 63% of Americans say arrest illegals or send them home. 63%. Arrest them or send them home. The Democrats know what these polls say. They understand this. That's what I'm saying. They're unhinged. They're nuts. But this is all they got. And only 21% of Democrats want illegals released. Only 21% of Democrats, 1 in 5, want these people released. After the catch and release thing is what they're talking about. Man, when you got numbers that are that far against you on the only issue you have, you're about to get your butt kicked, friends. We're also learning some more disturbing news about this little thing that went down at the Red Hen. And it appears that not only did that owner of the Red Hen kick Sarah Sanders and her family out of the restaurant, she followed them to the next place they went, and then she organized a small group of people to harass Sarah Sanders at another restaurant. It wasn't even her restaurant. That's harassment, man. I mean, that's harassment. I mean, that's, I don't know how you, any other way around that. I mean, I don't think you're allowed to do that. At some point, it's a problem. It's a legal problem. It's a criminal problem. And that's just disturbing, man. That's how messed up these people are. And oh yeah, I should also remind Mad Max, Maxine Waters, that she better hope that a group of left-wing nut jobs don't physically attack somebody and seriously harm them. Based on her comments, you could easily say that she is the one who incited a riot. Inciting a riot is a crime that carries a 5-year jail term. So if somebody ends up getting hurt or killed as a result of the most recent comments by Mad Max, the alleged California raisin, then with a bad James Brown wig, then she could be looking at 5 years for inciting a riot. 5 years jail for inciting a riot. Mad Max. Should also be noted, for you left-wing Democrats, I don't think I have any that actually watch my channel, but if there were any, or if you send this video to one of your left-wing friends, it should be noted for the record that in 2013 alone, 1 year alone, Barack Hussein Obama separated 72,410 children from their parents. 72,410 children were separated from their parents by Barack Hussein Obama in 2013. Yes, and of course now we have more bad news. It's nothing but bad news for Saggy Daniels. Apparently Saggy and her lawyer, Mr. Avenatti, the ambulance chaser, or the Hertz chaser, they were supposed to, Saggy and her lawyer were supposed to be having a meeting with Uncle Bob the Executioner and the Hillary donor posse today, or yesterday, Monday. And apparently Uncle Bob the Executioner had to call Mr. Avenatti and Saggy and call it off. He's probably disappointed. He probably wanted to hang out with Saggy for a little while, because he's got a sagging issue as well. Several. So it appears that what happened was that Mr. Avenatti did too much broadcasting of this, or publicizing it, and according to Uncle Bob, it messed up the situation. He didn't want it to be public knowledge that Saggy and Avenatti were going to come and talk to him and bring documents, specifically that the legal papers for this thing that she had signed with Michael Cohen. So they were coming to bring what they believed was more evidence against Michael Cohen. So Uncle Bob the Executioner because it became public and several papers reported that this meeting was going to occur, Uncle Bob the Executioner decided it was compromised. He wanted that to be secret. But once the attorney for Saggy decided to start, publicizing it as if it was like something, that you would publicize, which you wouldn't, but he did that, and therefore he compromised the meeting itself. And so at this point, Uncle Bob the Executioner is canceled on Saggy and Mr. Avenatti, and apparently he has not, doesn't appear he's made any effort to reschedule. Oh, Kamala Harris, who's the likely Democrats' pick for 2020 to run against Trump, has just declared war on ICE, comparing them to Nazis. And of course, there's people on the left suggesting that they go after the families of ICE agents. One ICE agent found a dead animal with his head cut off on his front doorstep this morning. That will not go over very well, and these are not the right guys. I mean, you look at who the leftists, these people are nuts. Look who they're going after. They really want to push the Trump supporters. They want to push the police. They want to push ICE. They want to push all of us. We're tolerating these people as best as we possibly can, because quite honestly, we're all busy. We all have jobs. We have lives. We have more to do in our lives than continue to soil ourselves over what happened almost 2 years ago in an election. It's over. Get over it. Hell, we're halfway into the next election. Almost. Yet these people can't seem to accept it. And, it's crazy. But, if you think this through, if they wanted to push this thing as far as they could possibly push it, which is into, civil disobedience, then violent attacks on Trump supporters or police or ICE or whatever. We're all the guys with the guns. They're the guys who hate guns, who are afraid of guns, have no guns. We are the people with all the guns, Trump supporters and cops. We got all the guns. If these people really want to push us to that point, if it ever gets to that point, they're going to lose bad. They're not smart enough to know. They're not smart enough to know. They better be awfully happy that we're very tolerant, patient people who find them, quite honestly, seriously, almost humorous. They're almost a joke. We laugh at them. We make fun of them. We don't take them seriously. They're not to be taken seriously. Certainly not as a real threat. But of course, a group of them on one unarmed person or someone not understanding that they're about to be attacked, they could certainly be a threat. Obviously, in an open situation where they essentially declare war on us, would be another ballgame. They wouldn't last very long. But anyway, these are just insane people going down the very, very bad road. Of course, Trump tweeted out also on the Red Hen that the Red Hen needs to focus more on cleaning its filthy canopies, doors, and windows, rather than kicking out a fine person like Sarah Huckabee. Why did he say that? Well, because Trump knows he's a businessman. He knows very well, and he does have, food service in his hotels and things like that. And he knows how seriously hardcore food inspectors are on restaurants. And he knows that something every food inspector knows is if they look at the outside, or if they come into your place of business and they see things look pretty dirty, just what they can see in the area outside your restaurant or in the dining area, that tells them if it's dirty out here, it's filthy inside where they cook and store food. And that'll get you a health inspection quicker than anything. And that may be what Trump was trying to signal here, was to get a health inspector over to the Red Hen to see what that place looks like back in the kitchen and in the stockroom area. Believe me, these people can find violations if they want to. It's pretty easy to find violations in any place that serves food. Very easy. We have 9 Republicans that want a list of names of everyone working on the Mueller probe. They should have had that a long time ago. Yes, they should have. Bill Clinton says that the meeting on the tarmac was completely innocent. It was completely innocent. Man, these guys just lie. Lie. Alrighty, man. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. You have a good night. See ya. Bye.